Good day, my dear students. So for today's lesson, I will be dealing with finding for the sample variance and sample standard deviation from a frequency distribution. The formula for finding for the sample mean from a frequency distribution table is this. So we have the sum of the product of the corresponding frequency and the given data or midpoint. Later on, we'll deal with this one, divided by the sum of all the frequencies. Let's have this example. The scores in chemistry of randomly selected grade 10 students are in the table. Solve for the sample variance and sample standard deviation. So here is the frequency distribution table of our first given example. So as you can see, we have intervals in here since it is a frequency distribution. So we have different classes. For this one, we have yung tawag natin dito. This is what we call the lower limit, and then we have the upper limit, and then their corresponding frequency. So for this group, we have 1 as the frequency and so on. Now, as you can see here, we have the sample mean. There is a computation already of the sample mean, which is equal to 85. Later on, we'll deal on how to get this value in the numerator and the denominator. Okay, so here is the table to construct in finding for the sample mean, sample variance, and sample standard deviation for our given example. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 columns. And then for the first two columns, we have the corresponding scores and their corresponding frequencies. And then for the third column, we have the class mark. The class mark is the average of the upper limit and the lower limit. So that means 60 plus 64 divided by 2, then yun na yung magiging class mark natin. Okay? And then we have, for the fourth column, we have frequency times x, which is the class mark. So just multiply that. And then for the fifth column, we have x minus the sample mean. And then square each deviations for the sixth column, and for the last column, multiply the sixth column here and their corresponding frequency. And then find for the total. So here is the completed table for our given example. Okay, uh, for the first row, class mark is 62. Okay, other term for class mark, that is the midpoint. If you're going to list down the scores here, 60 to 64, the mid value is 62, right? Okay, but the easiest there is to just add this one and then divide it by 2. Then you'll get the class mark. So 62 here, 67, 72, and so on. And then total or sum up the given frequency. So we have a total of 35. And then we have a frequency times class mark. So 1 times 62, kaya meron tayong 162 dito. Okay, 2 times 67, 134, and so on. And then get the total as well. And for this one, we have negative 23 in here because x minus sample mean. The computed sample mean is 85, right? So we have 62 minus 85 will give us negative 23. 67 minus 85 will give us negative 80, and so on. And for the sixth column, we have 529 here, just is the square of negative 23. So there will be no negative values here because if you're going to square a negative number, the result is always positive. And then after that, sum up as well the values in here. Okay, and then for the last column, as I said earlier, just multiply the sixth column to the second column or for the corresponding frequency. So we have 529 multiplied to 1, we have 529. Okay, 324 multiplied to 2, we have 648, and so on. Then add all the values and we'll get 3120. Okay, take note on this total. So the computation, here is the formula, the formula in finding for the sample variance. So we have S squared is equal to the sum of the product of the square deviations times the frequency, the total, and then we have for the denominator we have the sum of the frequencies minus 1, and then the sample standard deviation is just the square root of the variance. Okay, and sample standard deviation are the following. So we have, so this is the computation for the sample variance. As you can see, we have the total in here, 3,110, yung nasa last column natin na total. And then, for the numerator, we have 35, the total frequency is minus 1. Always yun. And then we'll get 91.4705 or 91.47. Two decimal places, okay? And then for the sample standard deviation, just the square root of the sample variance, you will get 9.56. There is an alternative formula for computing the variance from an FTP. So for the sample variance, we have the following formula. Okay, and the sample standard deviation is just the square root of the variance. So later on, we'll be using this one. Okay, so in using the alternative formula, we are going to construct a table as well, but lower or lesser columns using this one. Okay, using the same given, as you can notice, the first four columns are the same. Okay, and for the last column, all you need to do is to multiply the third and the fourth column. So we have 62 times 62 will give us 3,844. 67 times 134 will give us 8,970. So if you're going to use the alternative method, will only be needing 5 columns. And sa last column lang, yung ikalima lang ang gagawin ninyo. And then, add all the values for the last column. Kasi yung first 4 columns natin, ito lang yun din kanina. Okay? Ito lang yung nadagdag sa last. So, yung sample mean, we have 2,975 divided by 35. Kaya nakuha kanina yung 85 na sample mean. Okay? So using the formula now in finding for the sample variance using the alternative method, here's the solution using the alternative method. So for the sample variance, we have the following. So we have 35 for the total frequencies, and then we have 255,985. As you can see, ito yung value sa last column, yung total kanina. Okay, minus 2,975, that is the sum of the product of the frequencies and the class mark or midpoint, yung sa fourth column natin, 2,970 squared. And then divided by the sum of the frequencies times the sum of the frequencies minus 1. And then simplify further, we have the product of 35,255 and 255,985, we have 8,959,475 minus the square of 2,975, which is 8,850,625 divided by 35 times 34. 35 minus 1, so we have 35 here. And then simplify any further, we have the difference in the numerator, we have 108,850 divided by the product of 35 and 34, which is 1,190. And then we have a quotient of 91.4705 or 91.47. So which is the same value using the general method. That is for the sample variance, and of course for the sample standard deviation, we have the square root of the sample variance. So the square root of 91.4705, we have 9.56. Now, practice answering the following. You can use either the general method or the alternative method. It's up to you. So find for the sample mean, sample variance, and sample standard deviation.